Hyundai has created a monster of a mid-engine sports car, sharing nearly the same name as the Toyota MR2, and it's electric. We get a render of a Lexus CT successor, Toyota could be making a GR truck, and Nissan could be producing a Z crossover. Welcome back, Lexurious Fleet. My name is Kirk and I cover Japanese and Korean autos. Subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications so you won't miss any of my breaking news and car reviews. Over at the Hyundai news page, electrified RM20E racing midship sports car prototype conveys the next generation of Hyundai in performance. If you guys look, they just switched around the letters here a little bit. You know, we know the beloved MR2 from Toyota. If you haven't seen my video on the most recent possibilities of an MR2, go ahead and check that out. But they're switching the letters around now. MR2 stood for midship runabout. I got like 1,000 comments on the video, people talking about, oh no, it stands for mid-engine rear-wheel drive. It also stands for that as well, but midship runabout. This saying rear-wheel drive, mid-engine, midship. So anyways, MR2 or RM20E is what they're calling this. And it is a Hyundai Veloster, but it is not a Hyundai Veloster underneath, I can tell you that. It's just using a shell. And if they were to come out a production version of this, it wouldn't look like this. I almost guarantee it would look more like a real mid-engine vehicle. But what is under this? Well, it produces 810 horsepower and 708 pound-feet of torque. So you might be thinking, Kirk, it's an electric car. Why do they need to have a mid-engine setup? Well, I did some thinking about this. It didn't dawn on me at first. I'm like, well, are they just putting electric motors on the rear axle like every other rear-wheel drive electric car? Well, I don't think they're doing that. I think they're going to be putting the motors in a sequential setup right behind the driver, and that is going to feed into a drive shaft to an electric differential. Midship motor, rear drive electric axle. So like I said, I feel like they're going to put a series of 4 different electric motors, because if you look down here, it says 4 times 148 kilowatts or peak horsepower for a 20-second interval. And then not quite as much torque, but still a ton of torque, which is 810 horsepower, 708 pound-feet of torque. I think they're just taking the motor, or at least a variant of the motor that we see in the Kona electric, because that's around 200, 201 horsepower or so, putting 4 of them in line, and that's going to feed the rear wheels, but it's not going to be in line with the rear axle. At least this is my guess. I think it's going to be inline motors behind the rear, or behind the driver, that feeds a drive shaft into some sort of electric differential or something back there. And the battery has 60 kilowatt hours. It's really not that, big of a battery, because I feel like they have that huge electric series of motors there, so I don't think they're going to be able to put in much larger battery. But 60 kilowatt hours is around the same size, if I remember, as the Kona Electric's battery. So pretty modest there. Peak output is 600 kilowatts from that battery. Of course, it's a liquid flooded battery module technology to keep it nice and cool. 800 volt fast charging. Top speed 155 miles an hour, but the speed is limited for public road driving. Guys, it's possible they could be making an electric supercar to be a flagship for their inline. And if you're not familiar with their in lineup, it stands for 2 things here. It stands for Namyang, which is Hyundai's global R&D center in Korea, and then it also stands for Nürburgring, which is similar to Toyota's GRMN, Meisters of Nürburgring. So taking a couple of jabs here at Toyota with the MR2, with it being fully electric, it could definitely 0 to 60, they say less than 3 seconds, 0 to 125 miles an hour, so under 10 seconds. So it's pretty fast. Over at Lexus Enthusiasts, the LBX subcompact crossover. Now this was trademarked a while back. I made a video on it, but it is supposedly just be a Lexified. And this LBX is rumored to be a Lexified version of the TNGA B platform Yaris Cross. And here is what it looks like. They pretty much just took the front end of the NX F Sport with the trippies, those triple beam LED headlights. It would only be hybrid only because That's definitely the best powertrain to get in the Yaris Cross, and that will also give it all-wheel drive. It's definitely got some oversized NX F Sport wheels, but no F Sport badge here, but on the back here, F Sport logo on that fake license plate, and then the rear exhaust tips are even from the NX, and these rear taillights are even from the NX. So obviously a fan rendering, but yeah, it doesn't take that great of imagination to imagine what a Yaris Cross would look like with some Lexus decorating. So will we ever get it here in the United States? It would be nice to have even a less expensive vehicle come in under the UX. And I feel like this isn't going to be a whole lot smaller than the UX. The UX is already really small. Cars can't get much smaller than that. And this is going to give you all-wheel drive like the UX does. But since we don't get the Yaris Cross here, I think it would make sense for them to have a fairly inexpensive entry-level Lexus. Let's say it's around 34, 35 grand. And that is going to be pretty well equipped. So maybe base price around 29, 30. Get a well-equipped F Sport maybe for 35, 36, and that would slot in underneath the UX, but I don't know. Would you guys be interested if they brought a Yaris Cross here to America in the form of a Lexus? I would be okay with it. I would love to have a Yaris Cross here. Anyways, moving forward, speaking of weird crossovers, Nissan Fairlady Z, new model, right? We know about that. Crossover SUV though, and could this be a real thing? But there's a quote that it's based off of, and it's not just this crossover. We can take a look at it from the back as well. It's pretty much the Aria, right? But with the Nissan Z front end. And then if we look at the sedan version of it, I mean, it looks almost a little Tesla Model 3-ish with Ultima mixed in there. I mean, it's pretty ugly. And on the back, they actually incorporated the taillights fairly well from the Nissan Z, but kind of a Ultima still looking from the rear here. So Car Advice was interviewing Ivan Espinosa, and this quote here led to these rumors. When asked about the possibility of a Z SUV, the strength of the Z brand is so great that it may allow for some derivations. Well, this is translated from Japanese, so some derivatives, I should say. It would be like Mustang, you know, taking the Mustang and doing a whole sports car lineup, whether it's a crossover or an electric car or whatever. So what would you guys think? A Z lineup? I think it's a terrible idea, and I hope it never happens. Please don't water down the Z name. Keep it legendary. I don't think they would do this, but they're strapped for cash. So, I mean, you do desperate things in desperate times. Next, Ford Ranger Raptor to face a tough rival with the Toyota GR Hilux. Now, we don't get the Hilux here, we get the Tacoma, but it's definitely worth talking about. So Australia's Cars Guide has reported that the GR Hilux is indeed coming, but it won't be with the current generation of the mid-sized trucks. But the GR Hilux is expected to arrive beyond 2023 after the next generation Hilux/Tacoma has been introduced. And I think that's interesting that they put the /Tacoma. I would be tickled to death if they merged the Hilux and Tacoma to have pretty much the same underpinnings. It'd be on the TNGA-F platform, which is going to be the body on frame platform going forward. It should be fairly modular, where they can have different wheelbases, different sizes, etc., different cabins. We're going to see that platform on the new Land Cruiser, as well as other things like the Tundra and Sequoia. But they're saying if this is coming, it's going to have the new, not Skyactiv, the new clean burning diesel. It's going to be a TNGA diesel, which is rumored to be on the upcoming Land Cruiser as well. So a new 3.3 liter diesel V6 engine. I don't know the power off the top of my head, but I did calculate it with a spreadsheet that I made with the new Land Cruiser. So that would be pretty interesting. We would love to see it compete against the Ranger Raptor that we don't get here in the States, but that is a pretty badass truck. And that Ranger Raptor has a 3-liter diesel V6 that makes 255 horsepower and a healthy 443 pound-feet of torque. It's a GR Hilux, and maybe a GR Tacoma. How badass would that be? But I'm not going to get my hopes up. Not getting my hopes up, guys, because it's Toyota we're talking about. Honda, on the other end, exhibits world premiere of a Honda SUV E-Concept at the Beijing International Automotive Exhibition. Now, I tweeted this / put this up on my Instagram about this concept here. It definitely looks like a lifted 2-door coupe version of the Accord. I mean, the styling is very Accord up here, but there's really no information about it other than it's going to be coming to China, and it will be also accompanied by a CRV PHV, which is going to be pretty much the same, and they're calling that a sport hybrid, but it's going to be the same hybrid setup that we see in the CRV. So not nearly the amount of horsepower that we're able to see in the rival, the plug-in hybrid RAV4. So, and lastly, guys, over at Motor Biscuit, Hyundai flying cars begin testing as soon as possible. And they showed an eVTOL at the 2020 CES. Man, that seems so far. That seems like a generation ago, because 2020 is the longest year to ever happen. So the government in Korea is getting on board to help them produce these things, pave the way with legislation, you know. And then what I found interesting is that Los Angeles is looking into flying urban transporters, and they're hoping to have them ready for LA 2024 Summer Olympics. And that is not going to happen. They might have one vehicle there as a demonstration. Maybe the Master of Ceremonies comes in an eVTOL, but they're not going to be transporting athletes in eVTOLs in 2024 at the LA Olympics. That is, yeah, that's a pipe dream right there. But guys, interesting news today. Not a whole lot of exciting stuff though for production ready vehicles. I don't think I talked about one actual factual 100% coming vehicle today. So news has been really, really slow. However, it is the end of the year, so I would expect some sort of ramp up in news. And I am currently reviewing a Toyota CHR. Yeah, can't wait to show you everything about the vehicle, my thoughts, and yeah, and its limited audience here in the States for a reason. So guys, I'll catch you in the next video. If you haven't pressed the like button, go ahead and do that. If you're not subscribed, that helps me out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. I love you. Take care of yourselves. I said that already once, but you can never do it too much. Peace out.